welcome to Unraveled Game Thoughts. And I am finally getting around to my top 100 games after multiple pub meeple run-throughs and ended up cutting up 3x5 cards into little tiny pieces of paper with the games listed on each one and then sorting them into columns and then kind of figuring out what I like and dislike from that. And even after doing all of that, I still, as I look through games, I'm like, oh no, I've shift that one differently now. So anyway, I decided this is my top 100 for 2022, and then I will most likely come back around and do this again next year, just for fun. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the process as long as it took. Honestly, if you're watching this video now, just getting it to the point of doing a video is taking me quite a long time. And I was initially going to do a long, every game, all 100 in one video, and just sit it out for 3 hours or whatever. And then I was like, well, actually, I couldn't find a block of time to do that. My wife was like, why don't you just break it up into chunks? And I thought the fun thing would be, what if I just did a video with all 100 games in it? But I don't have the time. So here I am doing 15 to start, numbers 85 to 100, and we'll see how it goes. So if you enjoy the video, please give it a like. Let me know what you think of the 85 to 100 that I have gotten to so far, and I will try to get each of these sections out as quick as I can. So number 100 is Mageknight. And I know you're probably thinking, but that's Paul Grosven's number one solo game of all time. Well, I enjoyed Mageknight. It's a fun game. I actually will recommend Mageknight to people, but it's just not for me. I'm a fan of Gloomhaven, and there's no problem with being a fan of multiple dungeon crawl-like games, but I just like Gloomhaven better. I get it to the table a lot more often. Mageknight I don't find quite as compelling. It feels a little bit more like a grind to me to play it, but not, it's not a bad game. It made my list. It's my 100, so I would play it. I think I trade it. I think I traded. I think I sold it or traded it recently, and got some other games that I was more interested in and trying out, at least, because Mageknight was I tried it, I played it, and then that's good enough for me. Okay, so that is by Vlada Chvátil, and I also want to highlight the artists for some of these games because some of them are quite good. So for Mageknight, we have Jay Loney, Chris Relmo, and Milan Vavron. I know Milan shows up a few other times later on in here. But I want to make sure I highlight the designers and artists. I'm not going to mention the publishers unless I kind of know them offhand. I hope that's not like super taboo, but the designers and the artists are the ones that I think really put in a lot of the meat and potatoes that go into the game. So I want to pull them out. And some of these, at the end of this video, there's going to be a whole section on parks because I had I gave it away. Parks is in my top 100. I can't remember where it falls, but it's in there. But then there's tons of artists that played into that, and I wanted to make sure I highlighted the ones that I was able to find. So anyway, moving back to number 100, Mageknight. That is, good game. Moving on, 99. Turin Market. Not everybody probably knows about this game. It's a tiny, small box game. I saw it at a friend's house several years ago. Saw some people playing it, and I thought, that's really cool. I like that. I like how small the box is. I mean, it is. I'll take a picture of it if I can and throw it up in the main video. But yeah, it's got these little wooden chips inside that are the coins for the game. It's just a bidding game, and you're just bidding on resources, and then you score points for the resources based on their rarity. And it's, I think, relatively quick. It's really it's 2 to 5 players, but it probably plays better at 3 or 4 to 5 players. And that is designed by Jordan Draper and art by also Jordan Draper. So did his own game based on a place that he had actually gone, if I remember correctly from the rules. I think he went to this market in, I want to say it was in Turin, Italy. I could have the country wrong, but he really enjoyed the market and designed a game around it. So I think it's really cool. Great game to take on trips. It's so small. And my kids aren't really into bidding yet, but I think they could enjoy that down the road. And this is one of those games. This is a great filler game to get out when you just need something to play over the course of 15 to 30 minutes. All right, number 98 is a quick one. 5-minute dungeon. And my family loves this game. This is by Connor Reed, art by Alex Deocean. And I should caveat now that there'll be many of these designers and artists whose names I completely mess up. And if you are watching this, I'm sorry. I'm not from the various countries that all these people are from, and I just am not going to get them right. So, 5-minute dungeon, my number 98. Very quick, very easy. Has an app you can download on your phone, and it's like a voice, and you can change the voice. I know one of the voices that my family loves is the voice of the guy from he does Honest Trailers. If you're not familiar with Honest Trailers, it's a YouTube channel that we love to watch, especially after we've watched a movie. It's particularly good if it's a movie that's not that great. So we love to watch him, but he's just got a cool voice. So 5-minute dungeon, not it's super. You're just matching symbols and seeing how fast you can get cards from your hand onto the table that you discard to match symbols, and everybody's working cooperatively to defeat the various obstacles that come out in the dungeon. So it's pretty easy as far as the game to engage and play. A lot of fun. Doesn't take much time, so we enjoy it. Number 97 is Tobago. A little bit older, from 2009, by Bruce Allen, art by Victor Bowden. I actually think the art is kind of neat on this game. It's not like crazy awesome, but it is pretty good. I think back in for games that were around that time, I feel like this art was a little bit more vivid than most games in that particular 2009 2010 era. So that's my thought on that. And this is somewhat similar to Cryptid, a deduction game with some mechanics that I feel like in 2009 were a little bit ahead of their time. But it's enjoyable. It's fun, and every once in a while I'll go back to BGA and play it. Not one I necessarily feel like I had to keep in my collection, but it's not one that I usually feel like I'm sad that I passed on from it. Which doesn't mean it's a bad game. Just means I think Cryptid is a smaller box, and I think Cryptid is a little bit tighter as a game than Tobago is. Maybe a slightly less luck component, possibly. But I haven't personally played Cryptid. I have played Tobago, but just from watching a few playthroughs of Cryptid, I think it seems to be a little bit better than Tobago for doing roughly the same thing. All right, number 96 is Megaland. This came out in 2018. This is by Ryan Lockett and Mallory Lockett. And art was by Noah Adelman and Ryan Lockett, some of his own art. And this game replaced Diamante and Machikoro for me. We used to play Diamante on a fairly regular basis, and we played Machikoro several times. My kids actually liked Machikoro. I grew very quickly to not like Machikoro that much. And Diamante just got like, oh, we're playing this again, and it's not bad. It's a neat game, but I got tired of it real quick. And Megaland was a fantastic replacement for both of these games, and I think it just did everything that these two games did and did it better and in a more fun way, in my opinion. So Megaland, great family game. Pretty light and easy to play. We've been playing it with our kids for several years now, which they're older. I mean, my youngest is 10, but he's been playing it since he was 7, I believe, because we got this not long after it came out. So yeah, it's a good game. Um, Moving on, number 95, Caper. Another small box game, and this one is by Unal Rublo and Josh Emmerich. Sorry, Josh Emmerich is the artist. He did not design the game. Came out in 2018. They had a recent, not edition, but kind of a version of it called Caper Europe. I haven't played Caper Europe. I've only played Caper, and this is not one that hits the table a ton. But you're basically, I mean, you got 3 places and you're sort of doing some symbol matching. Basically, you're an art thief. That's sort of the theme of the game, but it's really more abstract in what you're trying to do, matching the symbols and trying to collect different types of symbols based on the cards that are out, can score you different types of points. And the different card types can also score points based on what you collect. It's pretty simple. It's pretty easy to learn. It's fun. It's a good, quick game for if you're looking for something small to pull out and put on the table. It's not going to take too long to learn or too long to teach. But that is Caper. Number 94 is Unstable Unicorns. Unstable Uniforms. That would be an interesting title for a game. Now, Unstable Unicorns, another filler game by Rami Bottle, who also apparently did the art. I did not realize that. This is a party game, really, for up to 8 players. It's got a lot of gotcha in it, so if you really hate games or you're just kind of, I gotcha, you know, this one's not for you. And honestly, we don't play it a lot. We don't like gotcha games that much in our family, but my daughter loved unicorns, and I got her this game because I thought maybe she'll play this because she likes unicorns. She doesn't play it that much, but she'll pull it out once in a while with friends, and I'll play with them, and it's fun. It's a pleasant filler, and I would say the gotcha feels more like a Magic the Gathering kind of gotcha than anything else. You just have more players than 2. But it's an enjoyable game, and I like the little things you can do with the different unicorns and the strategies. We just have the base game, no extras, no additions or expansions. But I think that's all you need for this one. Moving on to another game that I think you only need the base game, and it is fine, is Codenames. My number 93. Now, we also have Codenames Pictures, which I actually like a little bit better. But Codenames I'm kind of putting in here and using it as an umbrella for all Codenames. You'd have to pick the flavor of Codenames that you like the best. This is also by Vlada Shavatal. Art by Stephanie Gantis, Thomas Kustarovsky, and Philip Mermack. So this is a great game. We almost always pull out whenever family's in town, particularly family that doesn't really game a lot, but or we have family with some that game and some that don't. But Codenames is a good one. Everybody likes it. It takes a little bit of time, you know. Sometimes there's a lot of time thinking about what words I want to present to my team, and that's often the toughest role to have. There's a little bit of downtime waiting for people to guess, but it's usually pretty enjoyable just listening and kind of paying attention to what people are honing in on as they try to figure out the clues. So good group game, pretty thinky, good design. I think Vlada did a great job with that design. Number 92, Lewis and Clark, The Expedition. This was in 2013, so it's been around a while. Coming up on its 10-year anniversary. This is by Cedric Kubas Shabauset. Oh gosh, I'm probably terrorizing that name. And Vincent Dutrait did the art. I think Vincent shows up later in this list on some other games. This is basically a hand management and resource management race up the Mississippi with a little bit of historic flavor. I think other games have come along since that tend to do a little bit better on what this game does, but this game does not, I don't feel like this game has gotten old, and I still like to pull that out and play it. And I feel like the card depth in the game, because it's got a fairly good number of cards that you can go through, offers a lot of exploration into what you can do with those cards. And I've only played it sort of on a basic surface level, just trying to get down the river as fast as I can, but I haven't really utilized. There are certain cards I just overlooked because I felt there was too much thought I had to put into them. And after time has gone by, I'm becoming more interested in, like, I want to really explore some of those other cards and see what I could do with them, just just to try it out. And I found that some games spark my interest in, like, I thought I was past that game, but now I want to go and explore something that I noticed in reflecting back on it. And Lewis and Clark, The Expedition, is one of those games that I've reflected on a little bit more and would like to go back and explore some more, and still have it in my collection. Never traded it. Always felt a little like I didn't quite want to get rid of it. And I feel good about hanging on to it because now I kind of want to get out and play again. All right, number 91 is Concordia. And I don't have this game, but I've played it a couple of times with friends who had it. This is by Mac Gertz and art by Marina Fahrenbach, Mac Gertz, and Dominique Meyer. So this game, the Concordia, has like a pleasant deck building and some resource management, and really kind of a moderately dry Euro is the way I describe it. But it's fun. It's enjoyable. If you add an expansion or two in there, I think it really accentuates the game. And I will play it just about any time somebody gets it to the table. It's not one that I felt compelled to buy, although if I found it at a yard sale for super cheap, I'd probably pick it up. But it's still enjoyable. There are other games that I have that I think do similar things, but in a way I like a little bit better. But that doesn't make Concordia a bad game, and even as an earlier version of a lot of those deck building, resource management type of games, still does it well and in a fairly pleasing way with a nice map and reasonable art that I can get into. So that is Concordia at number 91. Came out in 2013. Number 90. This is another game that, if you are in America, this one you might not have heard of. I have debated up and down about moving on from this game. I recently had it for sale at a flea market, but I priced it fairly. I priced it kind of high, and for the purpose, because I wasn't 100% sure I was ready to move on from it. A lot of people walked by and were like, "What's this game?" They had not heard of this game because Ares doesn't really market a ton in the States, and so not a lot of people knew about Black Rose War, and so I would have to describe what the game was, which is a battle royale deck building game with mages, in which both the rooms that you move through to get to the other mages and the mage you have in your deck all provide various abilities and spells of different types that you use to knock out the other mages, essentially. And it's not like last one standing wins. You just keep, if you get knocked out, you go back to your room and you keep going and you keep playing, and you basically knock as many, get as many mages knocked out as often and as fast as you can, and use the rooms to the best of your ability. And once a certain number of rooms are destroyed, then the game ends. And so I think there's actually a couple of, I think a deck can run out, or certain rooms are destroyed, one of those two things. There's a couple of end-game features, but it's basically a race to see who can do the most damage the fastest, and each deck and each mage sort of has their own specialty. You can branch out, you can dive into any of the schools of magic, but you can really specialize in different types and kind of tweak your deck to do those things that are geared toward that school of magic. So pretty interesting game, and so it's not, it's only my number 90, so it's not super high, but it's not a bad game. It's fairly fun. It's a little more go get you than I typically play in most of my games, but it's still enjoyable. That's by Marco Montanaro, and there's a lot of art. The art's actually not bad in this one. Fernando Armentero, Tomoso Inishi, Giovanni Pirota, or Pirotia, Paolo Skipa, and Henning Ludvigsen. So a lot of artists in that one. All right, number 89, Twilight Struggle. Only played it once. but it's grown on me a little bit in the years since I played it. It's probably been about 8 to 10 years since I played it. I didn't think much of it at first, but after several more years of playing games, I have come to appreciate what kind of game it is. And I would go back and play it again. It came out in 2005. I could see why it was ranked so highly for so long, and probably can see it coming back up the ranks over time as the Cult of the New goes away over time, and games that are a little more classic might come back. I could see this one kind of coming back and obtaining a higher spot in the top 100 on BGG. But this is by Anada Gupta and Jason Matthews, with art by Victor Kset, Roger B. McGowan, Chekchu Nieto, Gulam Reese, and Mark Simonch. So it's based in the 1970s and 80s Cold War era. Two players are competing using various different strategies. One's a U.S. strategy and one's a USSR strategy, and they're asymmetric in the strategies and in the decks and in the cards and how they're used, but it's very well balanced, and it's one of those games that the more you play, the more you get to know the cards, the more you can improve on the game and get better at it. Number 88. Betrayal at Baldur's Gate. It's another game that I used to have that I have since moved on from. Came out in 2017. It's a good game, though. It's by Chris Dubois and Mike Merles. Some decent art by Aaron Hubrich, Tyler Jacobson, Scott Okumara, Amitanji, Richard Witters, Colt, and Court, Trego Erdna. So we didn't play it a lot in our family, and that is largely why I moved on from it, because at the time when I would get a game, if we just didn't play a lot, I would move on, and I would host game nights, but I think I played this one 2-3 times, and I enjoyed it, but I was playing Gloomhaven at the time. There were just other games that I liked more, and I didn't want a whole bunch of games sitting on my shelf that were just never getting played. I probably would consider picking this game back up again. It was enjoyable enough, and I like the tile discovery aspect. One thing that probably left me wanting was that you started with the same tiles every time, and that was honestly one thing that sort of triggered me to, it's okay. I've done this 3 times. We start with the same tiles. Even though the situation is different every game, it just, there was enough similarity from game to game that I was kind of like, well, I don't know. Didn't feel like there was as much to explore at the front end of the game to get me engaged. Although the back end of the game, once a hidden traitor was revealed, was always very interesting. And that's the piece that I really liked about this game, is that hidden traitor piece that would come out, and then that person would become super powerful, and everyone would have to race to defeat that person. And that was fun. It is an enjoyable game. I'd recommend it to people who really like a group game that offers a dynamic where somebody turns into the bad guy and then everybody goes against them. I think that's a pretty good rendition of that. I never played House on Silent Hill, House on Hill. Maybe it's just House on Hill. I never played that version of it. I've heard Betrayal is a little bit better version, but I think some people prefer House on the Hill too. So that is 88. Number 87 is Splendor. Came out in 2014 by Marc Andre, with art by Pascal Guidalt, Abbas Amir Abadi, Muhammad Arate Nasab. Those are the 3 artists, and this is kind of I would call it a gateway game to some degree. It got me into modern board gaming. It's one of the very first games that I got in the modern board gaming era. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. I don't mind playing this game whenever it comes out. It's not necessarily the first one I pull out, but it is not a bad game, and I'm always like, oh, good. If somebody suggests that one, there are other games that I'm kind of like, oh, we're gonna play that again. this is not a game that I feel that way about. And part of it is just doesn't take up too much time. There are some games that I'm like, oh, we're gonna play that again. It takes up too much time, and that's why I feel that way. And this one, I feel like if it was a 3-hour game, probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. But it's a solid 30-minute game. It doesn't take that long, and I really enjoy just the puzzle of figuring out how to pick up those gems and then get the cards you need and get as many points fast as you can. It's a nice little racing set collecting game. Number 86, Founders of Gloomhaven. 2018 by Isaac Childress, art by Alexander Alachev and Josh T. McDowell. I think this game gets overlooked a lot. I think there are some unique pieces to this game. I think it's got a nice little point tree, trickle-down point system, some tile laying, some collective, interactive map building pieces with other players. You really have to pay attention to what other people are doing. I think this is an underrated game. I think people were looking for more of a Gloomhaven experience, and this has nothing to do with Gloomhaven, the board game, beyond being set in the same universe. Completely different game, and I think that disappointed a lot of folks. This was one that I ended up trading away, but is also one that I wouldn't mind picking back up down the road. Doesn't get a lot of play right now, and don't have a lot of people that probably would play it very often, but I think in a couple of years, if my kids get more interest in board games in the next couple of years as they get older, or just even 4 or 5 years down the road when people are like, what's an old game that we'd love to play that is often overlooked, needs to be taken, the dust could be wiped off, and it's still a great game. I think Founders of Gloomhaven will come back, and people will find out that this is actually a really well-designed game. It's pretty fun. A little crunchy, a little bit of a grind to it to some degree, but I think once you get the rules down and get past a little bit of the chrome, it's not that bad, and a lot of it makes sense. But it's still a good game. Makes my number 86. Number 85, Call to Adventure. This came out in 2019 by Johnny O'Neill and Christopher O'Neill. Art by Max Bedelenko, Paul Canavan, Chris Cold, Jordan Jordanic, Adam Morin, and Sean Thurlow. The art in this game is pretty good. I do like a lot of the art on the cards. A lot of good theme. I don't want to say thematic because the game is really asymmetric more so and narrative than anything else, and it's player narrative driven, not that there's narrative really in the game. I wrote that it borders on being more of an experience than a game, and the storytelling element is really what intrigued me about this game. It's probably one that ends up moving down my list over time as time goes on, but I do like that storytelling element. I like the cards. I like the stories that it pulls in. I'm reading Stormlight Archives now, so I don't have that expansion for the game, but it does add some fun elements to the game. I have read the series by Rothless, and I have that expansion to the game, and my game has an extra set of what do you call it? The runes that you cast, which is another feature to this game that makes it kind of unique, is that you cast runes in as you go about telling your story and crafting your story. So there's a lot of interesting elements to this game, which is what makes it intriguing. And the game itself it's okay, but it didn't need to be a fantastic game with the story elements. That would have been great, but it's enough to keep my interest and makes it fun to pull out every now and again. Number 84, Potion Explosion. Came out in 2015 by Stefano Castelli. I don't know. Andre Crespi and Lorenzo Silva. And then the art is by Giulia Gingini. Yeah, not doing good on those. So this is one that I discovered on BGA. I've considered getting a copy, but it's a little pricier than I want to spend for the game that it is. It's not a bad game, and I really like the element of you're pulling a marble out, and when marbles of a similar color end up coming together, then that creates an explosion. And sometimes you can trigger 2 or 3 explosions in a row if you get things set up the right way, and you use the potions that you gain by getting marbles to then pull marbles out in a certain way so you can help trigger other explosions down the road. So it's kind of an interesting. It's a creative game. I enjoy it. I play it on BGA every once in a while. It doesn't. I played a whole bunch, in a tight space of time, and then now I'm kind of like, oh yeah, I'll go back and play it, but I'm comfortable with the fact that I never actually got the game. I don't know how much it would get played, but it's pretty fun, and it's one that is kind of a filler game for all intents and purposes. I pull it out as a filler if I had this game, but I do enjoy it, and I may have ranked it slightly higher, I don't know, than I probably will next year, just seeing where it is compared to some other things. But it's still a fun game, and I think it really would fit a person who really likes a slightly lighter game. That's what I think. But I enjoy it still. Number 83, Ticket to Ride, 2004 game by Alan R. Moon with art by Cyril Dijon and Julien Delvay. Great solid game, been around for a lot of years. You can find it almost anywhere. We still get it out and play it at least once or twice a year, and it is a good, fun to play game, and it hasn't worn out its welcome. So it makes my 83, and I don't know. It's a solid enough game that I have a hard time believing it will really leave the list. Kind of a set collection, build a train route game, but real easy to teach, real easy to engage, with a tiny bit of depth that you can get into the more you play the game. So it's pretty solid, pretty solid. All right, number 82 is Yedo. This one's a little bit hard to place for me. 2012 by Thomas Van Ginst and Wolf Planck, and art by Franz Vollwinkel. This game was given to me by a friend, and it is a somewhat long game. I have never completed a game. I've played twice and never completed a game because it just took forever. Part of that could attribute to learning, but the second game we really knew it well, and we still couldn't finish it in 3 hours. So it's really probably a 3 to 4 hour game, and action selection, hidden agenda game with a touch of gotcha, and it's fun. It's an enjoyable game. Both times I played, I loved it. Honestly, if I played this a few more times, I could see this moving up my list possibly. I need to kind of see a game to completion at some point, but it's pretty well balanced, it seems like, and it'd be interesting to play against somebody who is really experienced against those of us who are not very experienced, and see if there's it just throws the game for a loop, or are the choices a little bit more obvious depending on the quest you have. But there's a lot of actions to choose from turn to turn, so it's I can see this moving up as opposed to moving down my list over time. Next up, my last game for this particular video is 81, Nemo's War. Came out in 2017. I love the art in the front. I wonder why that is. Probably because it's by Ian O'Toole, who's fantastic with game art. Chris Taylor is the designer. I remember the first time I saw the Nemo's War 2nd edition art on the cover, I was like, ooh, that looks cool. And I almost wanted the game just because it looked cool. Didn't realize it was a solo game at the time. And it's really a solo game. I mean, there's kind of like a 2-player option, like a co-op. But, I mean, you're just working together to accomplish the same goal. And it's a solo game. Has some narrative elements, some push-your-luck mechanisms, and some thematic mitigation options that weave into the push-your-luck piece. But you're traveling through the ocean. You're doing some battling with some other ships. You're trying to get treasure, get points. There's several different, I think 5 or 6 different outcomes that Nemo can be looking for that are along different lines. So you could be looking for treasure. You could be trying to battle a lot of ships. You could be trying to increase your notoriety. You're kind of chasing or dealing with those different elements throughout the game. and no matter what game you play, but depending on which of those outcomes you're looking after, you're going to be chasing one or two of those elements more strongly in the game. But it's a fun game, and it's well designed, and despite there being dice chucking, which I don't typically favor in a game, I like it for this one. It thematically fits in very well with the things that you are taking chances on are thematically things you would be taking chances on if you were in that real life situation. So it's kind of neat that way. But I like it. I don't get out solo games that are purely solo very often. I've played more in the last year than typical, and I don't know if it'll post before this video, but I just got through recording a play of Coffee Roaster and another solo game. I got another one on my shelf I haven't played yet, and I know I kickstarted another solo game that's coming. Probably, I doubt it'll come this year, probably next year. But it is fun to sometimes just get something on the table when you don't have anybody else to play with, and just crunch through it and have a game that has some meaty, enjoyable decisions. And honestly, I could see playing this one with my kids just for the storytelling elements. If they have to read, I want to say it's 10,000 Leagues Under the Sea. If one of them, they're in a classical academy, so if they have to read something like that, then they might enjoy playing this game just for the sake of, oh, this is cool. There's a game about this book I read. That's neat. And they might like that. But anyway, that is my bottom 15. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a like. If you have thoughts about any of these games, then let me know. I'd love to hear it in the comments. I'm going to try to chapter it out for each game and put a link to a place where you can buy this game at the cheapest price available that I can find online when I post this video. Obviously, that'll change over time, so it won't always be relevant, but at least in the near future, maybe you'll have a couple of options. If there's one of these games you're like, oh yeah, I've been wanting to look for that game, and you're not sure where to find it, hopefully I can help you out with that. Thank you for watching. Have a great weekend from Unraveled Game Thoughts. Man, if I could just say it straight. Unravel it out of my mouth. Have a good day.